Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. My name is Iain Mackay. I'm hosting tonight and I'm hosting my good friend Michael Grangeslaw for another Mac and Mickey mashup. A Mac and Mickey Monday mashup, which we've got to put the Monday in because the M's work. I love a bit of alliteration. How are you doing, Michael?
Absolutely fantastic, mate. Thank you very much. And how about you?
Yeah, not too bad. I've been sitting, waiting with bated breath for that acceleration to kick in the transfer window. Now the boys are back. They all came back to start training. I haven't seen any reports of who didn't come back, but I mean, we know that players like Anthony Gordon will have a little bit of a longer rest than Bruno because we're away on international duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get caught up with that later on in the week. But we assume they all came back. They'll probably be checked to see how fat they've got or how much work they've already done. Joe Linton was training 2 weeks ago in Brazil with his old team, so he should be super fit.
That doesn't surprise me either. He seems like an absolute workhorse. I think if his wife tells him to take a day off, I imagine he's still trying to hit the gym in the morning just to get one last bit of the grind in. He seems like one of those players, and I think that's why he's had such a great spell at Newcastle. So I love that about him.
Well, he'd be a bit frustrated as well, missing out on the last 3 or 4 games, particularly watching us lose the last 2 of those games.
Yeah, absolutely.
He hasn't gone mental and punched anybody because we didn't qualify for the because somehow, thanks to the referee of the Man United Aston Villa game, we have still qualified for the Champions League, and we've got a really exciting discussion later on about the Champions League because, as you pointed out, the first qualifying knockout
games are tomorrow
this week. So. Yes, as you listen to this on Tuesday morning, hopefully, it's tonight that the Champions League starts. So we're using that as an excuse to talk about something other than nobody being signed by Newcastle. Although, let's be honest, Michael, that's not strictly true, is it? We have got a contract signed. In that,
but who?
We have offered and had accepted 1-year extension to 11th choice goalkeeper John Ruddy. So he will still be kicking about the place. Apparently, not only to model the XXXL large dressing gown available in the Newcastle shop, although he did a great job of that. But Eddie loves him about the place. He's a goalkeeper coach. He spends a lot of time, actually. He does a lot behind the scenes. I think I heard that he's had all of the under 18 and under 21 games as well. So maybe he just thinks he has to he's been at those to justify the fact that he's standing around doing nothing for the rest of the season. But given that we're waiting for James Trafford to join Nick Pope, Martin Dubravka, Odysseus, whatever his name is, and the guys who presumably need some sort of chance coming through in the under-21s and the under-18s, and Mark Gillespie, he probably is around about 11 points. But anyway, we've signed somebody. It's not particularly inspiring, is it?
Yippee! No, to be fair, it's one of those. It kind of feels like what Jordan Henderson was to England when he kept getting all those call-ups. He seems like he's nice to have around the place. He's not realistically going to get any game time. And let's put it this way, as you mentioned, he does a bit of coaching with the lads. If in training, he's one of the best people to have around because he's always given 100%, because he knows I'm not really going to play any more games, but if I do get the chance, I want to be 100%. You never know, you might get a game against Bromley or someone like that. But if he's the consummate professional around the place and he's always helping out with training, he's got some good ideas, helps the youngsters, then why not? Like, City had Scott Carson, we've got John Ruddy, and hey, I quite like him.
I think I was at one of the 2 games Scott Carson played Manchester City, because I think one of those games was
4-3
the League
against
Cup
us.
was at Newcastle, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a league game actually. I think it was the one Ferran Torres got a hat trick in the 4-3 against us. We managed to get 3 goals against Manchester City under Steve Bruce, and we still didn't win the game. Sums up everything.
I remember that was my best ever multi bet on the game.
Oh,
I had Joe Willock to have 2 shots on target, and he hadn't had any up until about 60 minutes. But then he took a penalty and it was saved, and then he knocked the rebound in. So I got the 2 shots on target in about 2 seconds, which is incredible.
Beautiful stuff.
Anyway, yeah. So away from goalkeepers who don't play very much, we should also note, and we are going to go into a little bit more in depth, that Callum Wilson has announced that he has actually left the club. Yes. And we're not going to be rude about Callum, because he is a great servant. He was frustratingly unavailable throughout the whole of last year, and apparently unable to agree a pay-as-you-play type deal to continue his role in the number 9 shirt. So he's announced today, with a tear in his eye, although probably with rushing off to find who's going to pay him a bit more money, that he's left Newcastle. And we're going to talk about Callum in part 2, I think, aren't we? Because we've both got some thoughts about how he helped us through the darkest of days, to be honest.
Yeah. We wouldn't be where we are without him.
I don't think we would. And I think he scored some really, really good goals. We had a little sniff that James Trafford was photographed in Newcastle this afternoon, but he wasn't. He was photographed in Carlisle, which is where he's from. So he's probably just visiting his parents. Nothing happening there. Ridiculously quiet. No news. We're not going to talk about it again. But I did read today that Anthony Elanga is away on holiday in Portugal at the moment, which possibly is explaining why he's not hot putting it up with the A1 to have a medical and sign on the dotted line at Newcastle. But again, we're guessing, aren't we? Unai Emery yesterday was apparently announcing that he was really interested in the player as well. So fingers crossed,
not another one,
done, and we won't have somebody pull the rug out from underneath our feet. One new rumour.
Oh,
one new rumour. A direct replacement, I think, for Callum Wilson, a second choice striker who's going to cost us absolutely nothing if it comes to pass, because Dominic Calvert-Lewin apparently is in discussion with Newcastle now. Our initial feel was fairly underwhelming, because Callum Wilson was injury prone, but he did score a lot of goals. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is injury prone and doesn't score very many goals. That's unfair. I know you've been looking at the stats, Michael. I know that's what you did think. I know you were put right, though, about what he could offer to the team by one of your pals at War Flag. So why don't you just tell the people why Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not actually a bad shout for a striker coming on for the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, I was in work today, and I was very much saying, "Oh, I'd cry if we signed Dominic Calvert-Lewin," and I was very much put right. Annoyingly, it's annoying when someone gives you points and you can't argue against them. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin does offer Newcastle something a little bit different. When you look at the statistics of aerial duels, Alexander Isak's down there with some of the worst. It is just 30-odd% that he wins, and it's one of those where when we're against teams with low block, like Everton on the final day of the season at times, in fact that's harsh on Everton, it wasn't really Everton like that, but against teams we faced, Everton earlier in the season, under Dyche, they played with a low block, we couldn't break them down. Brighton in the 1-0 where the beat where Danny Welbeck scored, both utilising low blocks. What you can do is you can push Calvert-Lewin up against the furthest defender, launch it towards him, and then you've got potentially Isak hopefully Alanga, Gordon, Barnes, whoever it is, Murphy, whoever it is, you were already in that final third, picking it up and getting at the defence. So it's something that Calvert-Lewin can offer that Newcastle currently don't have. My answer to that was, oh, well, what about William Asula? But let's be honest, it doesn't really seem like Eddie Howe trusts Asula enough to do that at the moment. I would happily give him a chance, but at the same time, I'm not sure how comfortable I would be with William Asula being our second choice striker next season. I know Gordon can play up front. I know Joe Linton could even play up front. We could put Alanga there if he signs. Barnes you could even put there if necessary. So it's one of those where everyone could probably play there, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin would offer something completely different. And as much as I don't like the signing, I can sort of see the logic to it, which is almost upsetting, if I'm honest. What do you think?
To be fair, it does make more sense to do it now when he's on a free transfer than when we were trying to negotiate a fee for him this time last year. And although it might seem a bit sledgehammer to crack a nut, it's a bit route one is what we're talking about, isn't it? To try and get through the low block.
Yeah.
Whack it up as far as we can. The ball drops because he wins half the ball, and we've got our skillful players snapping around in the box instead of trying to work something out from the halfway line. I mean, all the big teams do that. You know, Virgil van Dijk goes and plays centre forward for
times,
Liverpool when they're really chasing the game. Harry Maguire certainly goes up for Man United from about the 20th minute, doesn't he? But
he's better as a striker and a winger than he is as a centre back at the moment.
Very effective centre forward in that semi final of the Europa League, that's for sure.
100%.
So okay, he's free. I don't think he's going to be expensive. I heard about 60,000, which if we're just swapping Wilson's wage out for him. And I know he's supposed to be injury prone, but actually played quite a lot of football in the last 2 seasons. So we can get him on the pitch. He should be available most of the games if he's only getting 20 minutes a game.
Yeah, he only missed 15. He only missed 15 games in all competitions last season. Which, when you think about it, Everton played, I believe it's 44, maybe 43. I can't remember off the top of my head. You know, that's almost 30 games that he was available for, and it's certainly a lot more than what Wilson was available for. The only thing that worries me is the fact that he's had 6 hamstring injuries since 2020. But I'm also sitting here and thinking, he also had a broken toe injury, which kept him out for 126 days or 31 games, which just takes me back to Harvey Barnes at the start of the season, where it was like, hang on, you've stubbed your toe, you've kicked the wall or something. How are you out for this long? Turns out it's happened to someone else as well. But back to the point, 6 hamstring injuries. But what I will say is, if you remember back under Ancelotti, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was one of the best strikers in the league under Carlo Ancelotti. And as much as, Eddie Howe isn't Carlo Ancelotti, if Howe can get him playing half as well as what he did then he probably is a good second choice to not Callum Wilson, to Alexander Isak. So I'm not sure I can complain about it.
Yeah, not for free. I think maybe that's good. That keeps our powder dry, our money in the bank for a centre half, or maybe the number 10 apparently that we were thinking of when we were after João Pedro. I don't know. So we welcome this news with trepidation, but we do welcome the news.
Just something to add there as well.
He's an England international, isn't he? So if we're getting some games against the third and fourth pot teams at home in the Champions League, give Isak most of the night off and start Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, it's always a potential. One of the things that's just crossed my mind as well is it's one of those where I don't think Isak's going to leave this summer, but it wouldn't surprise me if he does next summer, just so Newcastle can get some money out of him and get a lot of time out of him. Eventually he is going to want to go to like a Real Madrid or a PSG or something like that. So I think when that does happen, if you've got the guarantee of Calvert-Lewin, who's linked in with the side, and then you sign 2 strikers next season with the Isak money. One, your starter, I would have said Gyökeres if he wasn't off to Arsenal, and then maybe one that's a little bit more of a risk. At least then you'd have a Calvert-Lewin that's got a year in him that would have been able to pick up the slack. So the more I think about this Calvert-Lewin deal, on a free, it does kind of make sense, and I wouldn't hate it. But what I would get worried about is if Isak got injured, because then you've got 2 strikers who between them scored 4 Premier League goals last season. But you can't think of it like that.
I think Asula would grab that chance with 2 hands, Michael.
I'd hope so.
To see him. Anyway, we have waffled on for a long time, given that there's no transfer news. Let's hear from Ken.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
We certainly will, Ken. Part 2. And I think we have to mark the departure of Callum Wilson with a little bit of a reminisce about how good he was for Newcastle. Certainly when he first got there, he scored 49 goals in 5 years, although he was injured for the last 18 months of that, really. I think that's a great record. He was a proud record in the iconic Newcastle number 9 shirt. And it's not an exaggeration to say that his goals in those first couple of years when Bruce was at the helm probably kept us in the Premier League.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those where I remember the days where every single game we were sitting there and going, why are Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin playing for this team? Because every single game they were getting us out of a hole, and it was 9 bang average players if we're being nice to the rest of the team. Because let's be honest, Bruce had them all playing absolutely shockingly. You look at Fabian Schär, Joe Linton, Emil Kraft now, and you think, wow, they're so good under Eddie Howe. But under Steve Bruce, we were the worst team in the league, somehow still picking up points because of Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin. So, yeah, I think without Wilson, there's no way we are where we are right now. And yeah, it's just the right thing to do to sort of speak about him in a positive way. Now he's gone. We said in the last couple of months, we've said, look, is it time for Wilson to move on? And it's not just for Newcastle, it's for Wilson as well. I think he wants one last season sort of at the top where he's number 1 striker, and he's not going to get that here. So, yeah, as good as he is, I think it's the deal that's best for both parties, I think.
Do you think he'll stay in the Premier League? I mean, people have said he's a good fit for a team like Leeds. He actually wouldn't be a bad fit for a team like Sunderland, actually. But there's a chance of some bigger money probably if he goes down and spearheads Wrexham's drive through the Championship. What do you think?
Yeah, Wrexham's the one I've been hearing. Personally, I'm not sure he will want to, and I do think the rumours of Wrexham are just because they've got a bit of money. I'm sure they'd be happy to splash it on someone. Birmingham was one that was mentioned a few weeks back. They've just spent 10 million on the Japanese striker from Stade Rennes who was at Celtic. His name's gone on my head, but he's done well as well. So they're not going to go for another striker. So for me, I think if he goes down, it'll have to be to a Wrexham or maybe a Leicester. See what their new manager wants, depending on who it is. But I'd like to see him maybe at someone like Burnley. Obviously, they've just signed Kyle Walker for 5 million. The chance for Callum Wilson to go there and stay number 1 in the Premier League, still play for a club that wants to play good football, Although I'm not sure they'll really get the chance in the Premier League. But it could be a really good way for him just to end his Premier League career at a club and potentially keep them up, because he'll be their number one attacker really next to Marcus Edwards. And I think he could be, the Alan Saint-Maximin to Callum Wilson for Burnley, like he was in 2020-21 for Newcastle.
My favourite season for Callum Wilson at Newcastle is Isaac's first season, where they interchanged. And I really liked the fact that it was the shock when they both got to play at the same time. But
yeah,
they didn't half work quite well together. Maybe that's just the defence panicking because they don't know who to mark first. But I do remember a wonderful goal where it was Wilson who was the middleman and picked the ball up from Miggy and squared it for Isaac to score a lovely goal into the top corner, take the lead in a match that we had been trailing in away at Brentford.
Yeah. Goal, right? Remember the one? Yeah.
Then not very long after that, I think it was at Everton when we won 4-1.
Yeah, the curler, the third.
He curled one from the edge. I mean, he doesn't score many goals from outside the box, Callum Wilson, but he curled one from outside the box. It was just all one move, trapped it, turned and curled it, and Pickford got nowhere near it, right into the top corner.
Two tiny arms couldn't get anywhere near.
No, of course not. Well, Nick Pope wouldn't have stopped it.
True.
What I'm looking forward to, because undoubtedly they'll do it, won't they, is the Newcastle United website putting the highlights reel together of all 49 of these league goals.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we'll see all sorts of goals so fast. That goal where he nips in front of the centre half and flicks it with the outside of his foot to back up Babshaw's
Nottingham Forest
in the first game of the season. He scored in the first game of the season pretty regularly. I remember one against Tottenham after about 2 minutes, and we ended up losing that game.
Same with West Ham when Antonio had one of the games of his career. Wilson obviously loved playing against West Ham as well. But, to be fair, the one that sticks in my mind is actually from before that season. It was actually under Bruce, and it was against Palace, where Patrick Vieira just took charge of Palace, and Benteke was starting to come good. He should have scored 5 against us. We were abysmal. And then Callum Wilson, as he does, the ball's just floating around in the air. Corner comes in. It's like 2 headers, I think, and it's just floating around the box. Just overhead kick, top corner. Yeah. And you're sitting there and you're going, wow, what a player we've signed. What is he doing under a Steve Bruce Newcastle United? And just moments like that where, he was there for the bad times. He got us through the bad times. And I'm really, really glad he got to lift a trophy with Newcastle, because I think the only thing that's missing was the Champions League goal. Obviously, he had the 4 appearances. We didn't score that many outside of the PSG game, but we were in the group of death and 4 very hard teams. But I would have loved it if he just got that one Champions League goal, and he would have done everything for us then.
Just to be fair to him, at home against Dortmund, he hit the bar right at the end, didn't he? We hit the bar twice in the last 5 minutes.
I forgot about that.
And if that had gone in, we might well have got through that group of death, and he could have at least another 2 games to score another goal. But, that's all, if my aunt was a man and not a woman, should be my uncle, or whatever that saying is that I've now butchered. But you know what I mean.
I prefer your version, I can't lie.
Callum Wilson, we salute you. 5-year contract. Disappointing not to see you enough last year. I think everybody was disappointed, but nobody would have been more disappointed than Callum Wilson, by the way.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But what a great signing he was, and he delivered. He delivered right the way through. I'm going to pause there because I've done enough of a Wilson fest, I think, and ask you to do the Zencaster advert, because we've got a really interesting chat in part 3.
Oh yes. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. And Zencaster came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It is super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
It does cut out more than just ums and ahs, doesn't it, Michael? There's 22 other
Yes.
speech sort of reflexes.
And Geordie terms such as way I.
Why I, man, yeah. I think we ought to start listing those just to keep this advert fresh until they write the new Zencaster advert. Anyway.
We take out the ums and ahs and replace them every time. I'm down.
Anyway, part 3. As you pointed out, people are listening to this on Tuesday morning, and it is the day that the Champions League officially starts with their qualification round. We're not directly involved until they do the draw on the 25th of August or something. So we've played 2 or 3 league games before we know who we're going to play. However, we have got a little bit of an inkling of who we might play, in that there are 4 pots of 8, is it? Or 9?
7 or 8.
9?
I think, 4 pots of 9. You're right. And there's still 8 teams overall to be confirmed.
Right. So
but that's it.
We do know pot A, pot B, pot C, pot D, which we are in, and we're right at the bottom in terms of the coefficient. But that will all change after this campaign. We know we're going to have a home game and an away game against a team from pot 1, pot 2, pot 3, and pot 4, and we're not allowed to play any other English side in the qualifying table.
Yeah.
So, Michael, what are your dream ties? Who can we get?
Oh.
And you know, who do we want to play at home? Pot 1 is full of the teams you'd expect it to be: Real Madrid.
Yeah, there's no easy games.
PSG, Inter Milan, Dortmund, and Barcelona. And we've got 2 of those: one at home and one away. What do you think?
I think we've already played Dortmund. We've already done PSG. Let's get 2 new teams. We've technically already done the San Siro with AC Milan. So I hope the away game isn't at the San Siro, just for the lads to get a few more games in there. Let's be honest, the teams from pot 1, I am not expecting us to get anything against. Maybe if you had Dortmund at home or Inter at home, you might be able to get a result. But I'm not expecting to be either of them. So let's go to the Bernabeu, let's go to the Allianz. Maybe even the new. Well, actually, it's not the new camp because the new camp's under construction. So yeah, play Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. Bring Bayern Munich here. We're probably going to lose to both of them, but I think we'll lose to most teams in pot 1. Maybe get a result in the home leg, but at the end of the day, you want to play the best in the Champions League in the group stage when you know that you've got 2 teams in pot 4 and pot 3. That's where you're going to get your points. Do you agree with that, or am I being a bit?
I get where you're coming from. Personally, I would love PSG at home again, because 2 years ago, I mean, it's a different team. I get that.
Very different team.
They'll come looking for revenge, but they are the champions. Let's play them. We've got 8 games, and we probably need about 11 points to make sure we get through to some sort of knockout game.
Yeah, that's
so we don't have to win all of these. I'd love PSG at home again, and I don't mind away from home. Barcelona would be lovely. Bayern Munich would be scary. I think if we went to Inter Milan, we would have a chance of getting something. Anyway, pot 2 is much more interesting. In pot 2, we've got Leverkusen, Atletico Madrid, Benfica, Atalanta, Villarreal, Juventus, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Club Brugge. Now, I can see points here in the home game.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just to add to that, Benfica and Club Brugge are 2 teams that we've picked out that should make it through the qualifying. Obviously, they haven't qualified just yet, but it looks likely that they'll probably be 2 of the teams that do. But for me, the team I really want to face out of those is Juventus, because the old lady, I remember Andy Griffin, the goal vaguely. I was 7 or 8, 7, sorry. And I remember it faintly. Same season or just before the Leverkusen game where we won 3-1. Not this obviously same area time, but that's like my first memories, those 2 seasons. So I remember it well, and I would love to see a Newcastle United side come up against a Juventus side in the Champions League that have Lloyd Kelly at centre back, because I think we could definitely beat them, and it's a big name. It's another big name that you could take off the list. But
do we want them? Do we want them at home so that we play in black and white and they don't, or do we want them away so we could take that lovely navy and orange third kit and win?
Because of the quality of the other teams, I'd actually say I want them away, because I'd be a little concerned. Let's say we get Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid. I don't want to go to Atletico Madrid's ground or Leverkusen's ground. I'd want them to come here. Frankfurt, Club Brugge, Villarreal, Atlanta. I would fancy us to get results against. Benfica, maybe we go to... You know what? I want Benfica. I want revenge for the Europa League 2012-13. Oscar Cardozo, Rodrigo, they gave me nightmares. I want revenge. I want them to be having nightmares about Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon. That's what I want.
We got so close there. I mean, I know did we lose the home leg? Or did we draw the home leg?
Drew the home leg.
And then, and then it was, then they went ahead, but we got one back. And what we needed was one more goal to go through on away goals, and we didn't get it. We had chances as well. That was close. Pot 3 then. I'll go with Benfica, and as long as we have Juventus, I'd like to play them at home, actually. That would be marvelous. Yeah. Pot 3, but these are guineas.
PSV, there's a couple in there I wouldn't want.
I would have all of these at home. I'd fancy us. PSV, Ajax, Napoli, Sporting Lisbon, Olympiacos, Slavia Prague, Bodo Glimt, if they qualify, and Marseille. Now, I had a bit of a dream somehow. I'm remembering that we play Marseille. Well, I think Marseille is the home game. That's 3 points, isn't it?
I'd want revenge on them as well. Didier Drogba. I want revenge. And I also wouldn't mind seeing Joe Linton put the studs in the back of Mason Greenwood's head. So that's one of those that, you know what, give us Marseille, because I'm not going to lie, they seem to be getting in a habit of just signing the players with the worst reputations these days. I'd love to see Joe Linton put two studs into them. So yeah, I'd like that. On a nicer note, I really don't want to play Napoli, because there's a reason they're the upcoming force in Italian football. I know we can sit there and go, one of their best players is Scott McTominay. They're nothing, but they're genuinely a very good side. PSV and Ajax, I'd be more than happy to face. Sporting Lisbon are losing Gyökeres, so a lot of their threat's going to be gone. They're looking to replace him with Luis Suarez. No, not that one. The one that's linked to Sunderland. And then you've got Olympiacos, Slavia Prague, and Bodo Glimt. Genuinely, I'd take any of them, but I think the best away day there would probably be Ajax, the Amsterdam Arena. So hopefully we get them.
That'd be nice. Or Sporting Lisbon early in the campaign when it's still warm. That would be a good away day.
Yeah, revenge against them as well, actually. There's so many teams we need revenge against for knocking us out of previous European tournaments. Let's just get it.
Well, and what gives me great hope that we will, in fact, get the 12 points or 11, 12 points we need to get into another game after this is the quality of the teams in pot 4, which has us at the bottom. But
yes,
and not all of these have qualified, but we're expecting them to come through the qualification.
Yes,
they're the highest coefficient, which is why they're in here. But they've got to get through a qualifying competition.
Yeah,
so
correct.
FC Copenhagen, that one, which is the Yugoslavian team, which I can't remember. Who is Crvena Zvezda?
Red Star Belgrade.
That's right. Monaco, Ferencvaros, who, by the way,
excellent pronunciation.
We Did we not beat during our 1969 Fairs Cup?
Yes. I can't remember the score, but that's the only reason I know them. We've beat them before in the past. Yes.
Yeah. Galatasaray, Celtic, Union SG. Is that a German team or a Swiss team?
Belgian.
Yeah.
Union Saint-Gilloise.
So that's right, yes. I love them. Athletic Club, that's Bilbao, isn't it?
Bilbao, yeah.
So look, I mean, I'd have any of them at home, I think, would be good.
Yeah, I'd take any of them at home.
Avoid Celtic and Galatasaray away from home, and Athletic Bilbao.
Oh. See, I'd love Celtic away from home. Celtic Park, they do tend to do quite well at Celtic Park against English teams, so maybe that's a reason not to. But I think the atmosphere in a game between Celtic and Newcastle in the Champions League would be incredible. I just wouldn't want Galatasaray Turkey away. Let's be honest, we had a bit of bad luck with atmospheres. The last time we were in the Champions League, we had 3 of the best in Europe. Galatasaray would definitely be up there on a Champions League night where let's imagine either Galatasaray or Newcastle can qualify with a win, and then we end up playing them. They'll have flares. The stadium will probably be on fire. It would be insane. There are a few good teams in there, Monaco and Bilbao included, but yeah, I'd take any of them at St James's Park.
So we've got to win 3 and draw 2, or win 4 and we're in. So I mean, I think it, for me, I'm excited looking at that.
Yeah, it's really very exciting.
Forward. Do you think the rest of Europe is looking at pot 4, thinking, "Oh, Newcastle are in pot 4. They're you don't want to get them that draw," or do you not think we've got that reputation yet?
I think teams are probably looking at us and going, "Yeah, we probably want to avoid them." But I think they're also thinking that potentially about Galatasaray, Monaco, and Bilbao. Because maybe not Bilbao, but I look at Bilbao and I think that they're a fantastic team, particularly the fact that everyone's from the Basque region. Galatasaray away, that's more daunting than St James's Park, I believe. And then Monaco, as much as you'd maybe like to have them, they have made a few signings. Obviously, Paul Pogba's just gone there. Game time, who knows how much they'll get. But I think in regards to quality, people will be looking and going, we don't want Newcastle. But I think if you're going to travel somewhere, you'd much rather travel to Newcastle than to Galatasaray.
Yeah. So we'll have Celtic at home. We'll have that.
Oh yes.
That atmosphere, but we'll have it at home, working for us.
Works for me.
Hopefully, Brendan Rodgers can have that smug smile wiped off his face. He's always got a smug smile, and he's done nothing to be smug about. But there you go.
No.
Well, I hope that has whetted our listeners' appetite, your appetite, as much as it's whetted my appetite to find out who we're actually going to get drawn against. And I now will be watching the qualifying games with a little bit more interest, although I don't think these teams that they've got will actually start on qualifying League One, will they? It's the
I think
Red Imps that are playing. Probably Chelsea's ladies team. They've probably somehow managed to wangle that.
Yeah, the best team in there tomorrow night's Malmo. So yeah, you probably won't see any of them in the Champions League, but it's good to see the likes of New Saints are in there, Lincoln Red Imps, etc. So teams that you might be familiar with, but more than likely not.
Excellent. Well, that was fancy. We've talked for nearly 40 minutes and got all excited, and really the only thing we had to speak about was that we might be signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the street. So I think we've got this podcasting cracked, Michael. We can make nothing sound interesting for 40 minutes. Well done. I mean, we're blowing our own trumpet there. Perhaps our listeners could send us a message on YouTube to say,
yeah, you've said that, and every listener we have is gone, I'm not listening to this anymore.
They didn't listen through to the end, then nobody heard it, so we'll be all right. Anyway, many thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you very much indeed, Michael, for your insight and enthusiasm, as ever.
Absolutely been a pleasure.
I think what we have scheduled is Kevin, Nicola, and Joanne recording a Wildcard Wednesday tomorrow night. So
yeah,
expect a solo from Michael or me. We'll see you then.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.